So good morning, my dear friends. Today we are going to talk on various instruments, commonly used in orthopedic surgeries. So we'll discuss certain important instruments, which are basic instruments, which are necessary for almost all the surgeries in orthopedics day-to-day practice. So, karmano dukaraste ma pholesu kadasana ma karma pholhetu bhusmate santukta karmani. What is the meaning? Meaning is that you devote your time for work without expecting any result. So you have to dedicate it in your work, not for without any expectation of the result. Result is not in your hand, but karma is in your hand. That is today's philosophy. So we start with the class with a philosophy. Today, of course, again. So today we are going to talk certain important points. Important periosteum elevator. First thing, let us talk about the periosteum elevator. Supposing this is the periosteum elevator. Periosteum elevator is most commonly used instrument in day-to-day orthopedic practice. Paraboops. There is a thumb impression here where you can hold the thumb and you can remove the periosteum. So, there will be question that where you used to do the periosteum elevator is used in almost day-to-day practice. But today's concept is a bit changing. Today's try to preserve the periosteum as far as possible. Even application of plate in earlier days that you have to remove the periosteum and apply the plate. But now the concept is better not to remove the periosteum. You can apply the plate over the periosteum. That concept is coming. Earlier days thing was different. That is one point. Number two, there will be a question to you. What is the difference between periosteum of children and periosteum of adult? So you find the periosteum elevation in case of children is very easy, practically. But periosteum in case of adult is not very easy to stitch. And what is the basic difference between the two? The basic difference between the two, that the children periosteum is very thick and loosely elevated. That is one of the reasons behind why there is a diaphyseal sequestrum in the case of infection. But on the other hand, the periosteum in case of adult is very thick, thin and is strongly adherent. So you have 2 layers of periosteum. There will be a question to you. Starting from the periosteum, it may go this way, that way also in case of examination. So some practical knowledge also. And one condition in the surgery or orthopedic practice, that we do not use periosteum elevator in one surgery. Where you do not use, it's called excision of exostosis or osteochondroma. So here, in this case, you do not strip the periosteum. You try to remove the mass as a whole, along with the part of the normal bone, so as to avoid recurrence. That is one of the things you should understand, that where you do not use periosteum. There will be tricky question sometimes. Ask that where you do not use periosteum. I do not use periosteum particularly in the case of your exostosis excision, where you have to remove the exostosis as a whole, along with the periosteum, along with a part of the normal bone from the parent bone. So this thing you have to understand. So periosteum elevator may go this way, that question, how do you use it, and what is nowadays concept? Nowadays concept, we try to do not use the periosteum as far as possible. Okay? So this is one of the periosteum elevator. Paraboops periosteum elevator is commonly used. Okay. So since we are talking the periosteum elevator, we are talking about certain thing also. The osteotome and sigil. Want to understand? This is your sigil. You see, sigil one side it is smooth, another side is bevel. And periosteum, osteotome is both sides it is bevel. So you have to differentiate these two. And there may be different sizes. This may also come in different sizes. Broadness may be different. Yes, depending on the need. Small bone small, big bone big. And also same thing is applicable for osteotome as well, which may be straight, which may be curved, which may be broad, which may be thin, depending upon need. Small work, where you find works here. Then you have to necessarily use a very small osteotome, big or femur. You have to big osteotome. Yes, and you have a various size as well as curve also, straight and curve. Curves are also in different angle. It is depending on the need you have. But one should be able to find out the difference. And another thing is then, this is called Gauss. So Gaussian, this is curve. So we'll talk one by one. What is used? Osteotomy we used to do osteotomy most of the time. Osteotomy means surgical dissection. Fracture is a traumatic condition. But when your surgeon is doing for treatment purpose, it is called osteotomy. You are cutting the bone. So osteotomy, while you are doing, you are walking perpendicular to the bone. And chisel is the time you are walking on the surface of the bone. You are walking on the surface of the bone. So you are walking on the surface of the bone. Okay? So this is to work on the surface basically. Supposing you want to slice like this on the surface. So you are using chisel. This is we are working on the surface. Yes? Chisel. Supposing this part is way up, we want to chisel it out. You cannot do osteotomy. Osteotomy go deep. So you are walking over there to slice out the bone like this. On the other hand, you are using the osteotomy to do this section. Cut the bone. You are working perpendicular to the bone. So this is the basic difference between the two. And Gauss particularly to work on a deeper aspect of bone. So we probably inside the middle leg, particularly in case of your sequestectomy or taking sometimes bone graft also, or in deeper plane. While you are working deeper inside the middle leg, your deeper surface, so you can use the Gauss. So Gauss may be again may come in different sizes and also curve. Curve Gausses are also available here. You can use it while you are working in a deeper surface. So chisel, osteotomy and Gauss, these are the commonly used instruments. One should be able to differentiate these two and also know the basic use of it. Yes, this is your osteotomy, this is your chisel, and this is your Gauss. Then another thing commonly used is the bone nibbler. See, bone nibbler, you see you have two hinges here. This is single hinge, see, this single. This is double action. What is the meaning of these two? Double action is saying a single action is whatever pressure you are generating here, you are going to exert here. But here double action is said if you are using 1 pound, you mean 2 pound will be exerted here. Double action. Yes, this is basically to use nibbling out. Again, this will be available in different size and different shape. Different size means in small bone Gauss nibbler can be used for small bones. Forearm, you are using small. Walking on the femur, you are using big. Yes, walking on the tibia, you can use big. Basically, nibbling out. You are part of the bone, you can nibble it out to make it smooth, or rough part can be nibbled out. So nibbler is called nibbling out or taking out a piece of bone. The use of various surgeries, taking out a piece of bone. And we basically have two types of your head. One is single hinge and double hinge. Double action says that 1 pound only is going to exert 2 pounds of effect, twice the force at the tip. So which are again available in different size, shape and angle. You have this nibbler is straight one and curved one. Curved in this axis, again curved in this axis also. Two types of curve. Yes, you can have this curve in this angle. Again, you can have this curve in this angle also. So various types of curves are used. Basically, for the need, according to need, one can use it. This is called bone nibbler. The bone nibbler, two types. One is single, one is double action. Single action, double action. Basically, to nibble up the bone and to take out the extra bone here. Okay. This is, screwdriver. So one can see from this size, one can make out, who is familiar, that it is 4.5 or 3.5. This is 4.5. Big. One can see, one can make out from this size. This is big. So screwdrivers are few screwdrivers which are not available here. Ordinary plain screwdriver. Ordinary plain screwdriver, while you can use it, you can see the carpenter used to use a ordinary type of screwdriver. This is on flat type. This screwdriver is no more used, but you are supposed to know. Why? Because sometimes patient may come to you where the plates were used long back, say 20 years, 30 years back and coming for removal. There, if you are taking the patient for OT, with this screwdriver you are going to fail. Because this screwdriver is not going to fit. Machine screw, once upon a time it was very used, commonly used. It's not available here. Machine screw. Machine screw, you know, the screws heads are different. So, single slot, that is for ordinary screwdriver. Cruciate. ठीक है sir? Then Phillips heads. Phillips heads, particularly radio and other small electronic gadgets, you will find this is cruciate but deep. Yes, that is another screwdriver. So nowadays these screwdrivers are not commonly used because this technique is nowadays no more in use. Nowadays we are going for hexagonal. This is the hexagonal screwdriver. Hexagonal screwdriver most commonly use it 3.5 and 4.5. But for certain cases you are using 2 mm also. Screw depending on the size, rubber screw, small screws. Here also you have a screwdriver, small screwdrivers. Yes, for small plates here, one can use it, mini plate. Then you have screwdriver certified. So, though these screwdrivers are not available here, commonly used one is your plain screwdriver, simple screwdriver where one simple slot. That is important for machine screw. Machine screw, single slot, earlier used. So machine screw earlier days which here used also helped by Williams screwdriver. Another screwdriver which is not available here. No more using, this were not available. Williams screwdriver is a different thing where one can lock the head of the S in a slot and lock it, then use it. This is called Williams screwdriver. Yes, Williams screwdriver. One is Williams screwdriver, one is plain screwdriver, one is Phillips headed. Phillips headed are not actually in the orthopedic practice. No, you are supposed to know Phillips headed, not used. But nowadays all are being replaced by the hexagonal screwdrivers. Commonly used are the 3.5 and 4.5, but smaller screwdrivers are also in use, particularly for mini plates doing the mandible, for mandibles. Then sometimes your metacarpal bones, fixation with a smaller screwdriver. But basically it's a hexagonal. So you are going to fit it here. So from this point you can make out that this is a cortical screw 4.5. So you are going to fit it here. So this is called hexagonal screwdriver 4.5. So used to all you know. So this is basically for 4.5 screw, not for all. Or that 3.5 is mostly used for small ones like forum or fibula. Other cases almost you are using 4.5. So 3.5, 4.5 can be used, but even a smaller screwdriver mini plate can be used in certain cases. Okay. The another thing is bone holding. So bone holdings basically various types of bone holdings are available, different size and shape and health. But one bone holding which are very long in length bone holding, land bone holding, LAD land. And the surgeon who used to have a lot of bone holdings in this concept. Then today's picture is your reduction for say reduction for these are all AO groups. You have various types of bone holdings are there, but commonly used from the tip. Lion to head, lion. So lion, this is about lion to head end is lion shape, lion. Lion to head, and if it is long, it is called land. Land's bone holding particularly used many times. Today's also concept is used where they use a very long handle sort of thing, holding. That is long. Long land bone holding for say, but tips are different. Tips are you have the tips like your lion to head. Lion to head tips are there. Yes. So you can have various bone holdings. One another bone holdings are again one is a self-locking bone holding, another without self-locking bone holding. Self-locking. Self-locking means you are see while holding the bone, you need to do two forces. One is to hold it, another is to lift it most of the time. Yes or no? So if you use this thing there, at least one force is worked by this leg. So you do not have to hold it. So if you are holding for a long time, you may feel tired. You may feel tired. So if you are clamped this, so your holding part is being done by this. Yes? Yes, your holding part is being done by this. So this is self-locking. Self-locking. So self-locking bone holding forceps. If the handles are long, it is a lens bone holding forceps. And the tips are dependent upon the lion to tail, mostly commonly used. So you have various types of bone holding forceps. Depending upon need, for the forearm it is small, for the forearm for the small, and for the femur you have this big one. Most commonly used lion to tail long bone holding forceps. Mostly used for the femur. Long lion to tail, land bone holding forceps. Lens is long. You use to have a long. So today's bone are again coming in different way, different sir. Plate holders are coming up to hold this reduction. Nowadays, Lomens bone holding forceps, another device which was not being used nowadays. Lomens, you have three types of clamp right here. You have placed the plate here and hold it like this. This is called Lomens bone holding forceps. Lomens. The bone is nowadays not used. You will see from like this and you hold it like this and tight it. So you can hold the plate along the bone. So it was used earlier days by us, but now this hardly be used. This is called Lomens bone. So many bone are here. You can name it size, safe locking, non-safe locking, one. Number two, long side lengths, and also from the point of view, lion to tail or under serrated. So if the tooths are lion segment, the lion to tail bone forceps are used. Okay. So these things is nowadays commonly not used, but you are supposed to know the principle of this thing. This is called Kuentzers or Kuentzers nail. Kuentzers. Kuentzers. Kuentzers was actually to say is the pioneer in intermediate fixation in the German. So you are not using this. This is almost nowadays obsolete one. But you are supposed to know why. You are supposed to know because previously patient may be you who has undergone this technique may come to you for removal. And also you are supposed to know in certain conditions you should keep the intermediate handy in your OT where you fail to do intermediate fixation by close staining technique because of some technical reason. So serum has come out. Serum is suddenly out of order. Yes or no? You are unable to push the guide. If you are unable to push the guide, everything is done. So what to do? You have a flexor femur, plan for a person, everything is fine. Many things may happen. One, sometimes you may find the midrib is very absolutely narrow, where you cannot go through it. You do not have any option. Or sometimes there may be so many curvature. Or male united, earlier he had a flexor femur, now he is coming for again this. Yes or no? So there are certain situations where you may not go, cannot go for locking device, so to say, intermediary close staining technique. And sometimes so may happen that something machinery fail. So you are unable to go ahead with it. Then what option left to you? Probably in these situations it is severe, it can save it. Canal. So make the canal handy in your person theatre. Who know you may need it anymore, particularly in the case of femur, though commonly not been used, but here one can see it. Now, how to apply this you are supposed to know. What are the things here? What are the features? One, that you are supposed to know for the extraction purpose because someone has to apply earlier, he is coming for removal, and also for the technical reasons that may fail doing nailing device in a commonly used. Here one can use it. So you know that this nail is having two eyes. The eyes are important for extractions. You have a hook mechanism here for the extraction purpose. Yes, hook and hammering technique is there. So you extract it. One point. Number two is you have a slot there. See, this is a slot. At a femoral lesson. Slot. Slot is here. Yes. I will tell you what is important in slot. And if you look at this, your nail, you will find clover segment. It is wavy and a slot. As a clover leaf, separate cross section. If you do the cross section, you will find this is the shape. Yes. So what is the long features? 1 and 2 eyes are there. This is cross-sectionally globally separate, and you have a slot there. You have a slot there. These are the features. I will tell you that the eyes are mainly meant for the purpose of your extraction purpose. Yes, that is true. It is true. That is true. And number 2 is slots are important. Slots. See, femur, the full femur is not a volume case, is curved. There is a tendency anterolateral bowing. Femur is anterolateral. It is a bow. Yes or no? Some sort of bow is there. Distal part is not able. Even then you can make out bow. Yes. So it is said that one should place this slot in the anterolateral area. This is said why it is important. It is important in the sense that, say, one can make out from here also femur is not a straight bone, and the bow is there anterolaterally, and the slot is being placed over here. While putting, then you are supposed to place this slot in the anterior. The important is that there is a tendency of the bending. So necessarily this is already bent, and the deforming force is working on it to bend more. So to counteract it, you have to apply this slot. Slot part is more resistant. It can provide more resistance to the inherent tendency of the exercise of the body. Yes, that is one point. Number 2 is a cross-sectional view. Global stability prevents somehow rotational instability. So one thing is minus point here. That while you put a nail, interlocking nail, you have the interlocking bolt here, bolt there. So interlocking bolt is necessarily prevent internal rotational instability is the counteracted. But here that part is lost. So you do not have a rotational instability. So instability part is being attached to some extent by the cross globally with wavy part. So wavy part is there. That is one important point. And in this slot is said that it also helps in the neovascularization. What is the meaning? Meaning is that while you are going to put the nail, it is mostly retrograde technique, commonly used. But Kunzhas used to do anti-gate here. He did a guider sort of pass here and pass the nail through it. He also tried close nailing technique. Yes, but commonly, conventionally, most of the time we use retrograde technique. Means you open up the flexor side, do rimming, and this slot rimming is done, and it is come out like this. Then after rimming, you put the nail like this, and then hammer it, you flux it there. Then reduce the other fragment. Then again hammer it back to this side. This is called retrograde technique. So retrograde technique is commonly used technique for canal. But while going for the retrograde technique, you necessarily do the rimming. So accommodate the bigger nail. Why? So it is said the bigger the nail, better is strength. So it is said the strength of this your cane nail is mounts more than 100 times if it is from 9 to 11. So the determination of the nail is the important thing. Bigger the nail, better resistability. And it is said that this, if you are using a person 9 size and another person is 11 size, the difference is, the stability point of view is a huge difference, more than 100 times. So it is going to fail if you have a happy man and nail is gone. So necessarily you are going to accommodate the bigger nail. So bigger nail accommodation is possible only when you rimming it. Particularly this rimming part of this area. What is the isthmus area? So isthmus is the junctional point between the upper 1/3 and lower 2/3. So this part is narrowest part. Subtocanalism. So this part you need to do rimming mostly. Distally usually sign that the middle cavity is wider. Proximally also this part is wider. So you are doing to rimming mostly the isthmus area so that you can accommodate bigger nail. So and what is the difference between nail and rimmer? So same. Unlike the interlocking nail, if you are using 11, you should go for 10. If you are using 10, then you should go for 9. But here, same things. 9, 9, 10, 10. Okay? So rimming is done. Distally, you know the middle cavity is wider. So you may not do much rimming, but rimming part is mostly done for the isthmus area. So you pass this nail, then you hammer it back. So in this case, lot of questions may be asked. That sometimes you may be snack, it may be snack Saturday. It can. This is point question will be there. So it is true that sometimes there are problems with their related problems are there. It may be later on sometime. But sometimes it is snack. So not going this way, not this way. You are midway. What to do? If you are unable to do everything, one can say that you can split it to remove the nail. Finally, final option is there. Once it happens, sometimes if you are trying to accumulate a big nail, it may fail. So that may lead to the trouble. So these problems are there. So finally, one may need to do the splitting to take out the nail. So these things are there. Some questions may be there. What is the length of the nail? So that should be supposed to understand. Then our nail, that usually we want to keep the nail a bit out, half inch above this here. The important point is to take the, while extraction it will be easier to do so. But if you are keeping too much long, it may cause pseudobursitis and so it is there. So that is another point. But keeping out these eyes a bit out helps you to the extractions from. Otherwise it is a bit difficult. Otherwise the eyes is here, so you have to cut the bone to open up the eye for locking with the hook device. So that is another point. So these things are there. So some question says, what is the working length? Some question may be asked, what is the working length of the nail? The working length and the strength of the nail is inversely proportional. Longer the working nail, less is the stability. Shorter, better. So working length is said the area of the contact between the proximal filament and distal filament. Just the distal end of the proximal filament and proximal end of the distal filament. Between which, where the nail is not the approximate touch with the bone, contact, that is short. That is your working length. Shorter working length, better. A shorter working length in this case is mostly found transverse flexure of the subtrochanteric bone, where it works best. And it is not a very ideal choice, particularly it says that 5 cm below and almost 20 cm above the adductor tubercle is the area where one should go for nail. Other parts are not ideal for nail. And it is said if you are doing so, because instability point is an important thing. So rotational instability is because of the medullary cavity. Medullary cavity is wider above, wider below. Ideally, with the transverse flexure, your isthmus area, this is one of the best where one can do a very good nailing also. Today also one can do it. Those who cannot afford one can do it. This is the basic reason. But comminuted flexures are not ideal choice. Children's not ideal choice. Yes or no? Flexure, distal part, not ideal choice. Proximal part, not ideal choice. So many things are there, so many limitations. Nowadays the limitation is encompassed crossed over with this technical interlocking device, so that you do not have this problem of your instability and the other problems one can cross over. So one should have a basic idea about a nail, why the shape is like this, why do you have a slot like this, what should be length, what is the technique or extraction, introductions, and problem you face during time of surgery. One should know. So these things are basic knowledge you are supposed to have, because sometimes it may save your life. You may be stuck with this nailing technique where one can take the help of this cane. Okay? So this is one. So you have the various plates coming up now. Okay, plate as such actually. One should also able to identify the plates. Identify the plates. Nowadays, you all know that most of the plates are being your locking plates are mostly commonly used in today's practice. But even then, for examinations, there will be various questions. So these plates are nowadays not being used. This plate, this is a round hole plate. So international compression of ICP. Nowadays not in use. Not in use, but earlier days it was very commonly used plate. It's called round hole plate. So in round hole plate, one may, if it is available there in the examination, one may ask, why do you have a slot over there? This small slot is here. So this slot is that they call, this is a slot, see, there is a slot here. one can make out. A small slot is there. This, the whole part you have a slot there. We find it, there is a slot. This slot, see? There is a slot there. Other all holes are on, but there is a slot there. Yes or no? This slot? Yes. This slot is important for what? One may ask, what is for giving compression? Giving compression means, supposing this is your flexor. So this is one. So if you have another fragment here, other side, another fragment this side, yes. So for exerting compression at the flexor side, one device known as Muller's device nowadays is not being used. So Muller device can be anchored here in this area. Suppose another part of the bone is here. This is another part of the bone. Yes. So Muller's device will be fixed over here. Then a hook of the Muller device will be applied over here. And you can give the compression and where you can exert compression at the flexor side. Yes. So this technique as you can be used. But here limitation is that you do not know how much pressure your compression you are doing. One who is very forcefully doing so, you can get more compression, which may be detrimental for the human. And if it is not exerting adequate also, it is not going to serve your purpose. So there is a limitation. There is a problem is there, then how much pressure you are exerting at the compression, I do not know. It varies from person to person. But even then, the slot mechanism basically to give compression at the flexor side with a device known as Muller's device. So that compression technique, which was used, being replaced by the oval hole technique. We all know that you have this plate over there, apply the plate over there, then you are applying the screw over there, then the oval hole, see, while you are tightening the screw, you will find a time will be there, somebody eccentric, say, you know, this is a broad DCB. This is a broad DCB. A DCB you can make out from the holes, oval inside. And this is your small DCB. In between you have another plate which is called narrow DCB. So small DCB mostly used called forearm bones and also sometimes even necessary for fibula also. Narrow DCB, most of the time humerus can be used, but more humerus ideal choice is go for broad DCB ideally. A small bone, if the bone is very small, one can go for narrow DCB also. So you have small DCB, you have narrow DCB, you have broad DCB. Broad DCB mostly used for the femur or even humerus also. So you must understand the principle of the oval hole. So oval hole, how it works, you're supposed to know. And this technique, that how it actually exerts. You know the eccentric and centric, neutral. So in neutral, the hole will be like this. Eccentric, it will be placed like this. While after compression, if you are doing the compression, one time you will find while you are giving compression there, if you are giving compression there, screw is tighten. It is tight. So tight, once you are tight, while you are coming into contact with the hole, so a time will come, it will hinge on it. So at that time, because of the shape of your hole, it will glide. The head will glide this side. So while head is gliding, since your screwed thread is being anchored in the bone, so it is also gliding along the bone. So that is going to give compression at the flexor side. So this is technique. So one hole used to give 1 mm of diameter. If you are exerting 2, then you can give 2 mm diameter. 2 mm. So that is the actual basic principle of your ICP, DCP. So again, you have to identify. This is narrow DCP. This is your reconstruction plate. Again, various size and shape. Nowadays, of course, all are being almost replaced by the locking pre-contour plate. Pre-contour plate mostly being used most of the time. But one should understand every basic principle. But you should also understand that the plates are classified on the basis of your these features, morphological, but principle wise also there is another classifications. Where you understand what is neutralization plate, what is a buttress plate, what is a breeze plate, what is a compression plate, what is a anti-glide plate. Yes, so this is on the basis of principle. So same plate can be utilized. What is a neutral plate? Neutralization plate means deforming force is being neutralized by someone else and plate is being applied for maintenance. Neutralization plate. One is DCP, or downing compression plate. Yes, one is called breeze plate while you are crossing over the fracture side and we are opening the fracture side. So this is breeze plate. So when the buttress plate, supporting plate, the upper tibia. So one is called anti-glide plate, particularly distal tubular. So this classification is basically tension band plate. This is DCP is a tension band plate. DCP is a tension plate. Yes, these things you are supposed to understand. The neutralization plate, tension band plate, buttress plate, anti-glide plate, or then dynamic compression plate. These are the principle of plate. But otherwise, according to the size of the plate, you can make up small DCP, narrow DCP, broad DCP, locking plate. Locking plates are specific to the specific bone and size. Yes, P-contour plate. While the word is contouring come, so one should also know about the one is called P-contour. It is nowadays the locking plates are P-contour. But on an average, this is shape of the bone that is being contoured. So you do not have to do bending. We are contouring it. On the other hand, earlier days your plates are straight. So here you see you can make out here. So in this case, if you want to plate the apply the plate in this surface, necessarily if you do not contour it, plate will be lying like this. So if you are tightening it one time, it will if the fracture there, it will make the bone straight. So you are giving a shape of the bone, shape of the plate. This is called contouring. Contouring. You are with a contouring device. You are giving the shape of the plate according to the need of the bone. This is called contouring. So this is see, this is our distal tibia. So this is already contoured. So you know the distal tibia part is going like this. That is why to accommodate like this. You are contouring it. It is P-contoured, already contoured. But here you have to contour yourself. You have a contouring device, plate bending device is there. You can. This is called pre-contour. Again, another word is called pre-bending. Pre-bending is a different thing. Pre-bending is mostly done the opposite the fracture side. When there is a transverse fracture, we are applying the plate in tensile surface. And if you are giving compression, you will find the distal fragment, distal body opening up. So here a bend opposite the fracture side have helps compression distal fragment. So they call pre-bending is a different pre-bending this, contouring this, and pre-bending is that. You have to understand it. So it is pre-contour, pre-bending, and contouring. So contouring you have to do yourself. Pre-contoured plates are available nowadays, and pre-bending is basically done in those situations to be done. So and bending principles are also supposed to understand. You do not bend it at the hole. You should do in between. So that unnecessary bending on the head is going to metallic failure. Failure of the head. One is called it may fail it. 1 point. And number 2, bending should be adequate. That is why the concept of templating is coming. So one can have a good template. You can use it over there. You can do this and you bend the plate according to template, so as to avoid frequent bending and rebending. So if you are doing too much bending, rebending, the plate strength is gone and it may go for failure. So that is why it is important to understand what is called pre-bending, yes, what is called contouring, and what is called pre-contour. Plates are available now. So this is a pre-contour plate being available here. So you have to understand this thing. So next time we will be talking something more in context to the specific points. But these are the basic things you are supposed to understand. Certain things are not being covered. We will talk in subsequent class. So we are stopping for today, and these are the basic principles you are supposed to understand. Thank you very much.